we're kind of at this rock bottom where we're spending 15 hours a day scrolling on TikTok.
We knew that we were Jewish, but my parents are from Soviet Russia, which means that they obviously got it stomped out of them. There's these areas called blue zones, which are highly concentrated areas of population where people live past 100 years. The study actually revealed that by having a purpose early on in your life and following through with that purpose, you could expand your lifespan by 7 years. Yeah, so when I was 18 years old, I got a call from my friend and he said we could go for free because we're Jews. Tzitzis, tefillin, I didn't know what any of these things were. I was just exposed to it over the course of like 1 week.
Today we have the pleasure and honor of having Roman Peysachovich all the way from St. Louis.
That's right.
And one thing about Roman, just from being with him and talking on the phone with him, he is so kind, and you'll see in this conversation, it's all about purpose. And part of when you meet someone who has a sense of purpose is you don't feel like they're trying to get anything from you. You don't feel like they have like they're looking for anything negative in you. You feel so supported and validated by them. And it's an amazing energy to be around. So thank you for coming. I just wanted to read
Thank you.
Some stats. It's from the AI overview in Google, which is, it's like a ChatGPT fake stats basically.
Yeah.
But it's about anti-aging, and it says the estimated valuation for the anti-aging products market in the early 2030s is $80 billion. And already from 2023, we were spending $47 billion. It also talks about the stats about people buying more cosmetics, plastic surgeries, and the whole growth of the medical anti-aging. So the Brian Johnson Blueprint Project, a lot of the Andrew Huberman podcast studies, those kinds of things. Basically, there are a lot of people that are very interested in extending their lifespan and raising the quality of their life. Your big thing in your life right now seems to be your sense of purpose.
That's right.
So what was life like before this, that there was any need for a search for purpose, for finding purpose? And what are you measuring against that life right now is so amazing? What's the other side of that? Where does it start?
Yeah, for sure. So I can give you a little bit about introduction to my life and everything. So I was born in Belarus. My parents immigrated to the United States in the early 90s. I came here when I was young, 3 years old. Typical, hustler immigrant story. My parents came here, went to college, worked hard. My dad was busting tables, made a career for himself. My mother also. And, we grew up really good lives. My sister and I, it was good. And we knew that we were Jewish, but my parents are from Soviet Russia, which means that they obviously got it stomped out of them. My grandmother even tells me stories how they had to do like seders in the woods and just hide from people because, Soviet Russia is you can't practice any religion. So by the time, we came here, it was very I would say lost. We knew we were Jews and we knew what that meant, but we didn't know any of the traditions. We didn't take so much of that with us.
Sorry to stop you just for a second. Was there any anti-Jewish sentiment, or was there any trauma in there where it was like we have to stay away from Judaism, or it was really just...
Yeah, so over there for sure. But I think when my parents came here, it was different. I think they felt the sense of we don't know how welcome Jews are here, but it seems like you could certainly, practice Yiddishkeit here, and you could be much more free here than there. I mean, you have stories there of people, discovering someone's Jewish and they're just getting killed on the spot. It's, Soviet Russia was crazy times.
But they came to be more Jewish, or they came just because it was too much?
Yeah, they came just because there was a huge influx of immigrants that was coming from Belarus, from Russia, just from Eastern Europe in general, just because they wanted freedom. They wanted a future. I think their number one driver was their kids. I think they were really sacrificing their life and putting it all on the line, saying we're going to come here with nothing because we want a better future for our children. We don't want our children to live in these places. We don't want them to get prosecuted. And, that was the big theme of a lot of immigrants that came here from Eastern Europe.
And then how did that leave you feeling?
When I was growing up?
Yeah.
So we didn't know much. I wore a Star of David. It was cool. I saw someone wearing one, so I wanted one too. But we didn't know what it really meant to be a Yid. I didn't have a definition of that. Went to public school, didn't grow up Shabbos, kosher, anything. It's interesting. We were proud Jews, but we didn't know any of the tradition.
So what were you proud about?
Because I knew I was a part of something bigger than me. There's this concept, Pintel Yid, like at the core of everything else is just the facade. And the internal soul, the Jewish soul, the neshama, we're all from it's a piece of God. So it's weird to say because I didn't know any of this back then, but I felt it. I felt like I'm a part of something bigger than just, a person, a dude, a kid growing up. I knew at the core, I had this remarkable identity. I just didn't know how to tap into it.
So around what age was that?
Yeah. So when I was 18 years old, I got a call from my friend who said, hey, do you want to go to New York? We could go to New York for free. I'd never been in New York ever in my life. And he said, we could go to New York for free.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What? Never been in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. Never been in New York. And he said, we could go for free because we're Jews. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means.
Get the Jew pass.
That's right. And he said, a rabbi is going to give you a call in a little bit. I just spoke to a rabbi. All you have to do is prove to him that you're Jewish and we're in. We get to go to this trip. Flight is paid, everything. So I'm like, okay, I think I can pass the test. Maybe I'll go do some research. I'll go Google, what does it mean to be Jewish? And I think I got it. So I hang up the phone and instantly a rabbi calls me. So I have no time to prep. So I'm like, all right, I better sound like I know what I'm talking about. So he starts asking these questions. Are you Jewish? Yes. Is your mother Jewish? Yes. Is your grandmother Jewish? I go through all that. Yes, of course. So he says, what level of Judaism are you associated with? I was like, levels, Judaism?
The highest level.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I'm like, what level you got? And he's like, are you
level 200 town hall?
That's right. Yeah. I said, what do you got? And he said, are you Reform, Orthodox, conservative? No idea what any of these terms mean at all. So I knew this concept of like a Russian Orthodox church. And I knew that was associated with religion. So in my head, I put the two and two together. If this is a process of elimination, Orthodox makes the most sense. I don't know Reform. I don't know what any of this stuff means.
Did you say Russian Orthodox?
No, so I just said Orthodox because that was one of the options.
Whoa.
So he said, oh, you're an Orthodox Jew. I said, yeah, for sure. I'm an Orthodox Jew. And he said, he starts asking me more questions and he says, do you keep Shabbos? I said, of course, yeah. And he said, can you please tell me what a typical Shabbos looks like for you? So I knew the concept of Shabbos was Jews getting together. That's it. Like family getting together and spending time. This is just things you see in movies, things that the media puts out. So I knew there was this concept of just hanging out with family and getting together. And in Minnesota, where I was living, liquor stores are closed on Sundays. So they're closed on Sundays back then I had asked why. And at some point, someone once told me for religious purposes. Again, put the two and two together. Must mean that Sunday is some sort of holy day. So I said, a typical Shabbos for me starts on Sunday, like it does for any other Jew. My family and I, we get together, we go to restaurants, we have a good time, we sit down, we have a good meal. And he said, hold on, you're an Orthodox Jew and you do Shabbos at restaurants on Sunday. And I said, yeah.
But you're not breaking Shabbos.
That's right.
It's kosher.
Yeah. And he says, perfect, you're in. This is exactly who we need. So I came to New York and on an Ace trip. I found out very quickly how, funny my story was. And that Shabbos is not on Sunday. It was my first time doing Shabbos. It was my first time experiencing kosher in New York. I was just thrown into it. I did this program called the Lakewood Fellowship. And this was my first insight into anything. Tzitzis, tefillin. I didn't know what any of these things were. I was just exposed to it over the course of like 1 week. It was super intense, super cool. And that's where my journey started.
What were your reactions there? And why do you go on? Because I've seen a bunch of these trips, been like some social media positions or whatever it was on some of those trips.
Right.
And I was always thinking, how did these people get here?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, it was just my friend pitching me and just saying we can go to New York for free. And that was it. I was like, okay,
There's a lot
cool.
of programming though, right?
There's a lot. I had no idea what I was getting myself into at
Where's
all.
that friend today? You know him still?
Yeah, my friend Igor. I just actually saw him in Minnesota. He's living it up. He's living good. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Russian, Igor.
Igor. Yeah, that's right.
So you get to this Shabbaton, they probably called it.
Yeah, it was a Shabbaton in
And-
Lakewood.
In Lakewood.
In Lakewood. Can you imagine? I'm just thrown in the middle of Lakewood.
That was New York. They told you New York was.
They told me,
Lakewood?
right.
Wow.
It was,
I
we
would
did
be disappointed.
So we did Shabbos in Lakewood. And then during the week, we were hanging out in New York and just seeing, all the typical tourist
What were your
attractions.
first impressions?
It was, the biggest culture shock ever. I'd seen these things, you see pictures of like Hasidim with like garbs and you're like, well, what is going on here? I was so removed from this and I had no idea that this was something that was just so, that this is Torah. This is what we're supposed to do. Mitzvahs. I didn't know any of this stuff. Again, we grew up with good moral values, be a good person. My mother always taught me that, do the right thing, treat people with respect. But we didn't have a structured way. We didn't have any of this. So I was just shocked. I was like, wow. And I really, really was attracted to it. I'm like, this is so cool. These people who have never met me just opened up their home to me. They let me stay with them. They made me this insane food. I didn't know what cholent was at the time or any of this stuff. I'm like, there's something special here. And these are my people. Like, it doesn't feel like, it's hard to relate for people who grew up religious. There's this sense of like, going from when you become observant, there isn't this shift of like, now I'm a part of something. It's just realizing you were always a part of something. You just never tapped into it. And so this is my first week and I felt like I was hanging out in my cousin's house, at my grandparents' house. We woke up, everything was just, there was no like formal, it just felt like I was hanging out with a bunch of bros. And these are just like beautiful people. And it was really awakening for me.
There's an interesting part of it where I hate the word resonates because it sounds so wooey,
Right.
But being in Israel also, I think we take for granted a lot of the values we have as if everyone just has them.
Right.
And then you go someplace and you feel really comfortable there.
Right.
And you're kind of wondering, why do I feel so comfortable here?
Right.
And then you realize, like I had that feeling in Israel. You just walk around and everyone is kind of, they're thinking the same thing as you, more or less.
Sure.
And then you realize we're in New York right now and no one thinks the same way at all.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of very small things like Lashon Hara, especially is a big one.
Right.
Definitely kosher and Shabbos.
Yeah.
To most people are very foreign concepts. They don't understand any of it. There's no reason you would do it. But I'm surprised that when you went to that first Shabbaton, your first reaction was not just, this is so wacky.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, same.
I was very much like, this is so cool. This is like, at the time I was, I grew up with friends. I had a circle of friends that we grew up with, but like, you feel like these are my people. Like, I don't know you. I have no idea who you are. I have no idea why you have strings coming out of your pants. Like, this is so weird. So, for lack of a better term, but it's like, I just feel connected to you. I feel like I'm hanging out at my grandparents' house, even though we just met and I'm in a city and a state that I've never been to in my life. There's gotta be something there. There's gotta be something that you could tap into here. Like, this isn't a normal human experience to be around strangers who you've never met and yet feel like they're just your brothers and sisters.
So a lot of the poll, it sounds like, was the connection with other people.
Yeah.
Where I think for me, I would have thought the connection is to feel that deeper sense of purpose, which is, I thought you were going to say, I felt like these people were living on a higher level. They seemed they seemed fulfilled. Yeah. And I wanted that same feeling. But you're like, I had this feeling and I wanted to keep the feeling.
Yeah, I had that feeling, but I also felt like this is at the same time, as much as I'm saying it's so close and, it resonates with me, I never saw myself actually like living this lifestyle. I just thought it was so cool that I could come and hang out with these people. But for me to actually be here one day, Shabbos, kosher, keeping everything, that seemed very like a far stretch, and that's basically what I struggled with. I wouldn't say struggled, but that's what I dabbed into over the next, I would say, 7 years. I kind of kept going in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I would come for Shabbos, I would leave. I spent the next 7 years of my life from 18 to 25 really trying to find my purpose through Judaism. And there was friction there for sure, but I couldn't go all in. And I also couldn't go all out. There was never a moment where I was like, I'm just completely done with everything. I was stuck in this, like in the middle, so to speak, in this area. And it was cool. It was cool. But, rabbis were telling me you have to date Jewish. You have to do this. You have to stop eating shrimp. And so there's so many messages and different rabbis, everyone giving me.
Where were you finding these rabbis? Like you had that one trip to New York.
So I had the trip to New York. And then when I came back, they connected me with the local rabbi.
In Minnesota?
In Minnesota, yeah, who just ran like a cure program. And yeah, it was just a lot thrown at me and just being pulled in different directions. Don't do this, do this. And I knew it was the truth. I knew it was something I want to be a part of, but I didn't know how to connect to it. I didn't know, I tried kosher for like a second, then I didn't. And it was a struggle. It was tough.
I just realized that I led with the anti-aging thing.
Yeah.
And the person listening is probably like, what the heck?
Right.
That didn't need to be in the intro. Can you explain what it has to do with what we're talking about?
For sure. Yeah. So right now, what I'm seeing is like a really cool shift. So when I was younger, I'm 33 now, people were really into the YOLO movement that was born. That was like my generation. You only live once. Let's party. Let's live it up. You hear this even in like lyrics of songs that were popular back in the day. And let's just party tonight. Let's make the best out of life tonight and tomorrow because life is cool. So that was what I grew up with a lot. And you're seeing this shift lately where people
I'm just thinking a party rock anthem in my head right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So now you're seeing the shift where people are like, okay, we know life is cool. Life is awesome. And we're living in great times. But instead of just, YOLO, let's party tonight, let's actually extend and expand our life. Let's see how long we can live in this world, And they're going away from partying, drugs, and things that shorten your life to what can I do with my sleep, with my diet, with my exercise? What can I do on a day-to-day basis that will make me live longer?
You think a dude in college is thinking about that?
I think so. I mean, I think Andrew Huberman, I think all these people, like, what's the draw there? Everyone's been saying the message forever, just, eat healthy and do this. It's boring. But I think the way that they're saying it now is like, you see young kids wearing whoops, tracking their sleep, tracking all these things.
Is this a fear? Is this a fear of like mortality, or is it?
I think if it's driven by that, that's bad, right? Then you get the whole, Brian Johnson pushing like, don't die, literally, right? I mean, that sounds purely like a fear. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
I prefer not to.
Yeah. But I think it's just a drive to live longer and live healthier lives. I think people are realizing, hey, if we don't drink, if we wake up, we do the right thing, we're going to feel good. We're going to make we're going to make the most out of our time here. And we're going to live longer. And who doesn't want to live longer,
And it might also, just based on my ChatGPT research, be exacerbated by social media.
Right.
Because we're kind of at this rock bottom where we're spending 15 hours a day scrolling on TikTok.
Right.
And instead of life is really good, we have so much and we're using our time in such a terrible way. How can we use it better?
Right. But I think part of this longevity movement is also limiting screen time and these things that I know you're passionate about. I think these are huge, huge topics of discussion. And, we're lucky we have, Shabbos, we take a break. Can you imagine people not having that? Like just being on? I've been running around New York for like 3-4 days now. And I'm like, this is insane. Right. But at least when Shabbos came, I got a break. I chilled. I relaxed. If I didn't have that, it would be crazy.
All these dopamine detoxes.
Yeah.
It sounds like longevity is like linked to having a purpose.
Yeah. Yes.
What was happening before?
What do you mean?
When you were growing up with.
Yeah, I think people now are asking questions that they weren't back then. So the way that I'm trying to tie longevity into purpose is the studies basically reveal that the one thing you can do to live longer the most is exercise. All right, sounds pretty boring. Okay, fine. So exercise. Now what that means is different for every person. But you should be exercising. And if you do it right, whatever that means for you, it's very individual. You could potentially add an extra 6.9 years into your life.
If you do it daily or if you do it like regularly?
It's all like regularly. Well, probably some aerobic exercise, some strength training. I think
Pilates?
Maybe. Yeah, Pilates too, yeah. But I think if you do a few of these exercises, if you introduce exercise into your daily regime, whether it's 30 minutes walking or whatever. Again, that's custom to each person. But you can add up to 6.9 years of your life. So there's these areas called blue zones, which are highly concentrated areas of population where people live past 100 years. So that's we should study that, right? Someone recently said, like, what's going on? Why are people in this area of the world living past 100? And so they went there, they did extensive research, and they discovered that the one common theme was these people lived with purpose. They woke up, they knew exactly what their purpose was in this world. So the study actually revealed that by having a purpose early on in your life and following through with that purpose, you could expand your lifespan by 7 years. So basically the number one thing that we could be doing, all of us right now, to live longer, even more than sleeping good, eating good, and exercising, is knowing what our purpose is in this world. That's huge. That gives purpose so much, for lack of a better term, purpose, right? So yeah, it's a big thing.
I'm assuming your purpose is religion, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
In that study, was it religion?
No, I think it was just knowing what your purpose is. It wasn't even a specific purpose that makes people live long. It's just people waking up, understanding, having a concept of this is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. This is my overall, vision and mission for my life.
So there's a quote. It's not really a quote, but I heard this idea from Chris Williamson, and he quoted someone else, I think.
Okay.
It's something along the lines of there's nothing more stressful or anxiety-inducing than a big goal or ambition without a way of hitting the goal, without a plan for it.
Right.
So this newsflash that purpose will make us live longer, which is genuinely that's a real newsflash.
It's a good headline.
How that idea by itself sounds really daunting because it's like, guys, you can just extend your life. All you have to do is find a sense of purpose.
Right.
How do you have like a one word, here is my purpose? Or how do you get there? Just all of that.
Yeah. It's very hard it's a very big abstract idea that's hard to break down for sure. I mean, obviously purpose is different to every single person. So I actually asked a similar question once to a rabbi who gave me a really good answer. And he said, whatever it is that speaks to you, whether it's a hobby or something that you like or something that you've been doing, that something you grew up doing, whatever it is, if that thing is ultimately, it's going to lead to something good, if the outcome is good and you're good at it, that is, in a sense, your purpose. That's what God gave you. He gave you the ability to do that. Use it, right? So just a whole span of things, whether it's a sport or you're good at something, you're good at connecting to people through any source, just whatever it is that you have going on and that other people know you for, right? If people say, oh, that person is XYZ and that's kind of one of your core values, it's something that makes your identity, then lean into that, give into that, use that, and, spread goodness with that, use that. And that's, you know what I mean? You see this with people. I mean, this is a very I would say basic definition, but someone's good at sports their whole life and they're very good at basketball. That's you. That lean into that. Use that for the good. And I'm not saying make that strictly your purpose, but use that, to use that if it's your passion for sure. That's what
Personally, I think I have a fear of being confined by that super tight defined identity.
Right.
That now, I'm not just podcasting. That's not my whole identity.
You're not just the food guy.
I'm not just building a company. That's not everything.
But you're good at it, right?
Thank you, first of all.
You're good at it, which means you shouldn't. You use it. You can use it. You can
but
use
I don't
it
want
for
it
the
to
good.
define me. That's so scary.
Yeah, for sure. You have to know ultimately who you are, right? Like what does define you? Like when we have so many different identities, right? Like we wake up I wake up, I'm a dad. I have to put on my dad hat. I go to work, I'm like a CEO. After work, I have to be a husband. I got to go to shul. I'm a yid. You know what I mean? We have all these identities. And I think this whole idea of purpose isn't saying just find one. That's who you are, but it's using all of them together and really combining them. That's what makes us all unique. We all have different identities and we lean into different ones. And I think just using that to spread goodness, I think that's, you know what I mean? I think that's exactly what you guys are doing, right? It's not your identity necessarily, but you're good at doing it clearly. And you're using it as a platform to reach people and inspire good things. I think to me, that's fireworks.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah. What does someone do when they have this identity picture in their head?
Yeah.
And people are just they're saying, oh, you're this person. They're misidentifying them. They're misidentifying their purpose.
Right.
I felt this when I was younger. I had different skills and they're like, no, you have this skill. I'm like, no, I do this. This is what I want to be known for. Right. And that was crushing. What do you do that people understand you better? They understand your purpose.
Yeah, I think you don't ignore it. I think a lot of finding out who we are is external and hearing it from other people. If it's repetitive, if 5 people are telling you something about yourself, you should not ignore that message. Perhaps there's something there. I was the most anti-social media person for 10 years. For 10 years, I was not ever on Facebook, on Instagram. I hated these things with a passion. It was actually part of my, it was one of my core values. I hated these things. I hate these platforms. They're destroying society. I think you and I are very similar in that. This is terrible. Eventually someone's like, hey, you should make a video. I'm like, why would I ever make a video? And they're like, well, because I saw you in one video a year ago promoting some local food thing, and it felt like you were really natural at it. And I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Someone else said that. And then I just got to thinking, someone at my work, we were doing a video recording, and someone was like, wow, you're good at this. You have a talent here. I'm like, I can't ignore that. This is the third person now who says I should be on video doing something. So it was really, you know what I mean? If I would have ignored all that, I would have just been like, no, you're wrong. I know me better than me, right? But I kept hearing, I'm like, there must be something here. And that's when I ultimately decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to get on these platforms that I hate so much, because I realized that anything that you could use for the bad and for destruction, you can also, this is, Hasidus teaches this, anything that has the power and the potential to be X bad has the potential to be equally, if not greater, good. So you take something like social media, which again, I know we're passionate about it being, a net negative to society. Sure, but you can elevate that thing. You can use it for a higher purpose. That's what I'm trying to do. It's what you guys are doing successfully. So I think listening to other people there's a reason, right? It's a real thing. There's a reason that Hashem put that person in front of you, and there's a reason that he wanted you to hear that message.
Have you found that result yet of creating a net positive experience through social?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I've been on social media for 2 months only, and 100%. Someone messaged me a month in, and they were like, hey man, I've actually put on tefillin. I had tefillin.
Oh, wow.
When I was 12 years old. I got tefillin. I haven't put it on since, but you've inspired me. I'm like, that's it. Everything I've done led up to this moment. You know what I mean? There's a saying, right? That you could, neshama could come down in this world to do just one favor for another yid. I'm like, that may be it. God forbid. Hopefully this isn't the end of me now. That wasn't my only mission, but I felt very, very good. I was like, everything all the time, it's only been a month. The time that I put into this was totally worth it for that moment.
And theoretically, if you didn't get another text you should get more texts, but let's say you didn't get one for another year. Would you still do it?
I think so.
For another text?
Yeah, I think so. I think just look, you can use these things, this is you can use these platforms to spread goodness. It's not like, oh, we're living in a bad times and everyone's on social media. Sure, but then flip it around, do something good with it. And I think that's there's a lot of creators that are doing that. And I think it's really, really cool. Another thing that I was totally surprised, but people started messaging me that I grew up with, that I was close with. And they just, even family members who just started following me, they all of a sudden just, for whatever reason, this is totally unexpected. They started telling me where they're holding. They just, I haven't talked to them in years, added them on Instagram. Hey, hope you're doing well.
They're
and instantly, they're like, oh, by the way, I'm starting to keep Shabbos. I'm like, that's amazing, right? And so I'm like, this is inspiring, this is doing something to these people. They feel the need to tell me where they're holding. I'm not asking them that. I'm not saying anything to them. I'm just putting out videos on Judaism. And so, not to toot my own horn, but I look at that as perhaps it's inspiration. There's some inspiration going on there. Why else would they mention that? They're trying to say, hey, I'm doing stuff too. I'm on board, and that's very, very cool to see.
There were 2 people that came on actually. One was Melinda Strauss.
Yep, I saw that.
And one was a producer for a big podcast. Okay. And they were both talking about parasocial relationships, which I had never heard about before. Okay. But I'm starting to see it more and more. Right. That your relationship with those people, to them, they're like, I see him so often.
Right.
I keep getting his life updates.
Yeah.
It's like we're having the calls, but it's one way.
Right.
I always see my cousin on social media.
Right.
You're like, I haven't spoken to you in months.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, it feels like a delusion that isn't very healthy. Right. Because being on some of the receiving end of that, right, someone might walk up to one of us, and we're not huge by any means, but occasionally, if you get one view, that's one person that just saw your video. Right. So that person will come up acting as if we met each other. Right. And in reality, we have never met each other.
Right. It's crazy, right?
So part of that is is it creating something in your head where you feel like you experienced something that you didn't actually?
Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's interesting.
By the way, I do like you called me out. I go over to people that I see online. I'm like, yo, what's going on? They're like,
Right.
who are you? I'm
Right,
like, I still know you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting when I met you guys, right? It's like you feel like you know the people. It's like, hey, we share we don't like imagine if we had never met, if we just ended up like on the subway together, they're like just in looking at each other. It'd be a little bit more like, do I know you? But here you have a sense of like, I think the biggest thing that you could do is, and I think Jewish creators obviously do this very well, is like just be authentic. Because if you're yourself and you're actually like, this is who you are, then there isn't any of this like, does this person really know who I am or do they not? Or is this kind of a facade? But, that was the biggest thing before I got into social media. Everyone told me that, just be yourself. My idea was like, I'm going to talk to rabbis and ask them the same 5 questions. And then I started surveying people, what 5 questions would you want to hear from a rabbi? And the first question was like, what's the hardest mitzvah for you? So then I started asking, I think I asked like 2 rabbis, what's the hardest mitzvah for you? I don't even remember what they said because it didn't do anything for me. I didn't actually care. There was no takeaway. I went back, I made the video. I'm like, okay, so now is the world a better place? Did I get inspired because a rabbi told me what the hard mitzvah for him? So I'm like, this isn't, it's not doing it for me. So that's when I kind of shifted and I was like, whatever question comes up in my mind around the Parsha, around any mitzvah, around anything that has to do with Yiddishkeit, I'm going to go ask. And that's truly what I care. Best case, it resonates with other people. Worst case, I have a collection of things that, inspired me for that day.
What are some questions that you're walking around with now on an average day?
Oof. Around Judaism?
Anything.
Just in general? I think one thing that I'm really focusing right now is measuring success. How do you measure success in all aspects of life? In your business, in your Yiddishkeit, in your family? It's very easy I'm not really such a numbers guy. In business, it's very easy because you have metrics, you have numbers, you either hit the number or you didn't. But what about as a family man, as a husband, as a father? How do you measure that success? How do you know if you're exceeding it? How do you know if you're not hitting it? And so that's something I'm working on right now.
What have you found so far?
It's still early on. I only just recently
need some KPIs.
Yeah, we definitely need some KPIs for life, right? Yeah, for sure. I think it's yeah.
Well, I think the scary part is the comparison that you might get into of like, I think he's a good dad.
Right.
Why? I don't know, but I think he's a good dad. So do I compare to him?
Right. Yeah.
And then it gets bad.
Right. I think the one area that I struggle with is particularly in Yiddishkeit. Where am I holding? And you know what I mean? Where how much more potential do I have? And I think the theme, bringing it back to purpose, is your purpose is almost like in business, you have like a vision and you like stay true, you fire, you hire, you do everything around that vision and those core values. And we have our core values from Yiddishkeit, they're right in the Torah. So I think just following that and just making sure you're moving in the right direction ultimately.
With an experience like this where it's a very steep growth.
Yeah.
What is it like to be on the end point, not saying that it's not going to continue, but at the end point as of now of that giant curve? Do you feel pressured to keep that steep growth, or is it sort of like, now I'm where I'm supposed to be? How do you approach that?
Yeah, in Judaism or just in all aspects of life?
I think specifically Judaism.
Yeah, it's tough. I think one of the biggest messages of the Lubavitcher Rebbe is that you don't stop. You're right. When you feel comfortable, you just keep going. You take something else on. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel like you took on a lot, even though it's spreading good, but it's just a lot. The natural thing to do is to pull back, right? I've taken all this on. I'm learning. I'm doing this. Perhaps I should take a step back, take a breather, right? These are things that we do. So it's funny. Someone once actually, this is a good story. Someone once and they visited the Rebbe and they said, what do I do? I'm doing too much. I've took on this and I've taken on that. And he said, you should go back home and you should take something else on, right? So what's the idea there? We, as Jews, we never stop. We don't stop. We keep doing more and we just keep going. And, you see people who are just on fire and you think they're going to burn out and they don't. They just keep going. And that's what gives them the life, right? Because they're doing so much and they just keep doing it. And yeah, I think that's one thing, that's one message I'm trying to take, is just to keep going, keep doing more, keep spreading good. And you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm the anti enough movement. When people say enough, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's like, I think you got to keep rocking.
Were you doing that before? But before you were religious, were you always pushing yourself and
I think
something?
so. Yeah, I was always, challenging the status quo. I had a difficult time in school. I was like, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to buy stuff on eBay and resell it. In school, I was just always kind of going against the norm. And I think that I was always taking on a lot and doing things. I think that this is, that's what gives you life. I was speaking to someone recently who's like extremely structured, like time blocking from the minute he wakes up to the minute he goes to bed, which I've attempted to do, but he does it successfully. And it's good, right? I think it's cool. There's something to admire there. But it's like, where's the life? The life is when things are on fire and things are crazy and you're doing this and you're all, I think there's something there. Yeah.
How do you balance that though?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think when it comes to Yiddishkeit, you just keep going. You just keep rocking, doing more mitzvahs. You keep spreading. You just don't stop. We keep rocking. We keep going. And yeah, I think it gives you life.
So there are two things there. One is, I think it's a really cool message because I suspect that those people like you that keep going, it's not because there's no moment of this is hard. Yeah. It's not that it was just smooth sailing the whole time. It's you had that feeling and then you kept going.
For sure.
Where I think a lot of people and myself would take that as a sign of maybe we should slow down right now because this doesn't feel right.
Right.
And you're saying it's not that it doesn't feel right, it's a challenge and you're supposed to keep going.
Yeah, you're supposed to keep going. Yeah, everything that happens to you is, you know what I mean? Like, I worked with someone once who was like, I can't work at this company anymore because there's so many challenges. We just solve stuff and then the new problems arise. And I'm like, it's because we're living. I'm like, this is it. Like, this is life. Like, you know what I mean? Like we didn't make any deals with anyone that everything was going to be perfect. And I think that's some people take struggle and they see these challenges and they see them as a, kind of an obstacle. I think we got to look at them as a challenge to overcome. And when you overcome it, there's another challenge and you keep going. And I think that's when we're living, when we're doing these things.
I think part of my own hesitation in growth is if you say, I have this ideal, I have this spot that I want to be in, it seems inherently saying, right now I am not
there, not good enough.
I'm not good enough. I'm not an ideal person right now.
Yeah. You got to use that in the right way. You got to use it to stimulate yourself to do more. You can't use it as a way to beat yourself up. I think when you hear a voice in your head saying you're not doing it like completely enough, you're bad, you could do better. I think this is the Yetzer Hara just tricking you. I think you got to just use that energy and channel it into doing something good.
Now for the Hasidus part.
Yeah.
When did DJ's the Hasidus start?
When did what?
What age did the Hasidus start?
Yeah, so I spent 7 years from 18, I gave you the story. So until I was 25, again, I was in and out. I finally got to the point where I was 25 where, enough rabbis had convinced me that I got to find someone Jewish. I was like, there's got to be something there. These guys this is like a non-negotiable. This person, this. Someone's telling me, no, you don't have to do this. Start with this. But it's like the one underlying theme. Got to marry someone Jewish. We got to keep our people going. So I'm like, there's something there. You're right. That's a message that I must take home. It was hard for me at the time. I was dating, not Jewish girls and everything, but it spoke to me, and they did a really good job on it. Props to all of them. They didn't stop. Yeah. So no, just all the rabbis actually. Yeah, just everyone who I was involved with, and so I went on J-Swipe, and I had matched with someone in St. Louis. My current wife. We met in Chicago. Yeah.
Testimonial right here.
That's right. J-Swipe works. I think. Yeah. So basically what happened, my wife grew up modern Orthodox. So she grew up Shabbos, kosher and everything. And I felt like, I got to step it up. Like this is someone who's at a level and I need to get there. So my rabbi was going to do the wedding with someone who I was close with. This was the rabbi back in Minnesota. And fortunately, last second, some circumstances came up and he wasn't able to do the wedding. So who do you call when you need like a Jewish bailout? I called the local Chabad campus rabbi. I didn't go to college at the university, so I didn't know him. I knew of him a little bit just through, here and there. A lot of my friends went to the University of Minnesota, so they were close with him. And I gave him a call and I said, my wedding is in like a week, 2 weeks. I have no rabbi. I know I don't know you very well. It's also in Miami. Can we sit down? Can we meet? And like this guy, one of my best friends today, I was just with him all weekend. He's like, yeah, like, well, just send me like the address, like whatever, like just like I'll be there.
That sounds so Chabad. Even,
I was like,
even your facial structure turned like Chabad rabbi.
Oh, did it? Yeah. So I was like, dude, what do you mean? I was like, you want to talk about it? Like, what's like the rate? How does this work? He's like, what? He's like, dude, just send me the address. I'm gonna do your wedding. And I was like, this is like the most like, you talk about self-sacrifice. Like this guy barely even knows who I am. He's gonna leave his family, hop on a plane, do my wedding. Like to me, that spoke. I was like, wow, that I couldn't do something like that. If some dude called me and was like, hey man, I need you to come do this favor for me. I know you don't really know me well, but don't worry. Like we're Jews and I'm out here in like California. Like I just need you to make the trip next week. I'd be like, dude, that's a big ask from another person.
That was a phone call.
Yeah, that was all in a phone call. Yep. So he said, I'll do your wedding. We got to start learning together. And he said, do you know anything about Hasidus? I said, no. He said, you're from Belarus, this Eastern Europe. This is where it started. Baal Shem Tov, Hasid Lubavitch is a town in Belarus where you're from. I said, okay, so let's learn a little bit. And just like firework moment for me. And through this whole hunt of purpose, Hasidus does a very, very good job. Specifically, Chabad Hasidus answers the question so well. There's a statement I'm sure you guys have heard. It gets, I think the sources, there's different sources for it. I think it goes back to Baal Shem Tov, where it's like the day you were born, that's when Hashem decided the world can't go on without you. Okay, so it's a cute statement. It's nice. It makes me feel a little bit important. But what does that really mean? It's a calling. It's saying, you really matter, right? It's not like we don't matter just because we exist. That's like the standard thinking. Okay, we exist, so we matter. No, like we only exist because we matter. That's why we're here. We have a purpose. And when you tap into that, you're like, whoa, like the creator of this entire thing, not the creator of this business, not the creator, not the government, the creator who created every single living, breathing thing, he has a purpose, right? He created this with a purpose, and he decided that I'm going to be one of the people who's going to help him. I mean, this is stuff, that's a life's like, boom. You know what I mean? You ponder on that thought, and all of a sudden you matter. You have a purpose just right there and there. Hasidus has this concept called Dir B'Tochtanim, which is a dwelling place for God in this world. That's the short answer. There's a lot more. This is an idea you could ponder on, we could speak for ages on. But the idea is that Hashem wants to be revealed in this world. He wants to be in this physical world. There's other worlds, Kabbalah will gets into all that. But where he actually wants to be in this world, where he wants to be the most is in this world. But he wants us to be the one to do that. He wants us to bring him into this world. So when you think about that, that means we have a serious purpose. Just that could be your life purpose, right? And how do you do that? How do you bring Hashem into this world? Through Torah and mitzvahs. I think what we're doing right now is exactly, we're fulfilling the entire reason the world was created right now, just by spreading any amounts of Torah and Hasidus. That's a big, big deal. This is not like little stuff, right? We're not hanging out. I'd love to hang out with you guys, but you get what I'm saying. Like this is a really big idea, and it's cool that we're a part of that. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel like I'm on board. I'm a part of something big. And so this just opened my eyes up completely just to Chabad and the entire world. And I instantly knew that like this was it. I understand what I'm doing now. I look at mitzvahs differently. The Torah was always there, right? We've had the Torah forever. And I even tried learning when I was 18, just basic concepts, Gemara and everything. And I think that that's super important. I do that aspect. I learn Gemara and everything all the time. But I think really understanding how we connect and like why we're so special, I mean, that gives you so much life. You just wake up, you ponder on that one idea, and there's no way you could like ask yourself, like, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? Like it's the biggest like mission statement ever. And we're a part of that. And I think that's really cool.
So what effect do you see it having on the world around you?
I mean, it's a good question. I think people are slowly starting to realize, I think Jews are realizing that there's something there's something crazy. Like there's something going on here. You can't ignore it. If you look through history, without getting into this, I'm sure everyone watching knows all the history of what's happened to our people from day one. But we're still here. Like what the heck?
Mark Twain.
Yeah, right. That's insane. His quote. I mean, that's literally it. And how much even after his quote, how much has happened to us, and what's happening to us right now. Right. We have a mission. Like, we were put here. God gave us a huge mission, and I think tapping into that really gives you a sense of purpose. For sure. It gives you like, whoa, I can't just wake up and hang out on the couch and just chill. I'm a part of something really, really big. And I think one thing that Chabad specifically, one teaching is that like every good deed, everything that we do could totally tip the scale. Now you have so much purpose, because before, if you have this thinking of like, okay, so I'll do Torah and mitzvahs, which is what the person who created, which is what the creator wants me to do. Great, he'll probably be happy. But over here, it's saying no. Everything that we do could tip the entire scale. One good thing, us doing this podcast, boom, that's it. Could be the entire reason, like could tip the whole scale. Mashiach comes, like you got to do, like, you know what I mean? You ponder on these ideas, and it makes you inspired, makes you want to get up and go do good stuff.
It sounds like there's a lot of like urgency. Like we need to do this. We need to do this now.
There is, for sure. That was the Rebbe's biggest message. Not like right now, get up, like do something. Like don't wait. We don't have time. We gotta rock. You know what I mean? Tying this back to the theme of not just like, relaxing and kind of, there's life in us. We gotta get riled up. We gotta do stuff right now. That's what, even with this whole like Instagram thing, I was thinking about it for like a week. Which was like, even now looking back, I'm like, I thought about it too long. It's like, what am I waiting for? And I was like, oh, maybe I should buy this equipment. Perhaps I should get that mic. I'm like, no, people need to know. And so people need to know Judaism's alive. Like people need to see our food, our mitzvahs, our traditions. They're not going anywhere. They're here. And that was my idea. I was like, I'm going to shove a camera in front of my face and just show people we're living it. We're breathing it. You cannot like it, but this is it. It's not going anywhere. It hasn't, and in its present state, it's not going anywhere.
It's interesting to think about the way we perceive time, right? Because when I was even younger,
right,
I would think about one mitzvah,
right,
and just think, what's actually, if this isn't worth it in this one moment, right, what is it changing in the future? Because my perception of the future was so non-existent. Right. Everything was this moment. That's right. It. And now I think for me, business has been an interesting way of seeing that.
Right.
Where, well, call 50 people one day for no reason, basically. Just be like, well, maybe we should try cold calling people.
Right.
And then nothing happens. And then 6 months later,
right,
one of those 30-second phone calls out of the 5 that actually picked up is asking if we want to be their social media company.
Right.
And I'm like, well, no, we're doing podcasts right now, but that's crazy that you just responded to my random cold call from 6 months ago.
Right. You're saying you see the effects of your actions
and time.
Yeah.
You see that time does like,
right.
It happens. It connects.
Yeah. I think people underestimate the power of a mitzvah. This is another concept because of this. Like, it's not, a mitzvah isn't time bound. When you do something good, you think like, okay, what's the big deal? I did this one thing. I get it. It was a nice thing. It's what my creator wants me to do. But this has an everlasting effect. It's, my rabbi says like, we're just a couple Jews. We're hanging out on this random street in St. Louis, Missouri. Right. This is like the middle of America.
Beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city. We do have an arch. Yeah. It's an amazing city.
Trains.
But what can we do? Well, what are we supposed to do? We got a minion going nice, but like, what can we do? He says, wrong. That's the wrong mindset. Us learning right now changes the world on a cosmic level. Regardless of the fact that we're just in St. Louis in a shul learning just a little bit, it completely has an effect on every Jew around the world. In Israel, like our mitzvahs are they're eternal, right? They last forever, that connection. I think when you ponder on that idea, it's like, whoa, we can't be wasting time. To go back to that, we can't. Time is of essence. We gotta make something happen. We can't wait. Jump in, do it now. The Rebbe was big on this whole idea of like jump. This idea at the most basic level, this is a big idea that you can talk about forever. It's like get in, do something. Take action. I think that's the big thing.
Do you think there's a lot of people just jumping around? They're doing actions, but like it's kind of like they're just doing it to be busy.
Yeah, I mean, you do see that a lot. It's so easy to be busy now, right? Like busy is like the cool thing. And I think that that's the wrong mindset. Like when I talk to people now and they're like, oh man, I couldn't, I'm just so busy. So I don't know when we can get lunch. I'm like,
you're so cool.
Yeah.
You're so busy.
Right.
It's so
yeah. Like, oh man, this
big.
Guy's got so much going on, and vice versa. When people like message me, I'm just not interested in whatever they have to offer. They're like, dude, I get that you're so busy. And it's like, oh, I'm reaching out for the third time. I know you're busy. Like they're trying to compliment me. I'm like, I'm not busy at all. Like you know what I mean? It's like the busyness bandwagon. It's insane.
It's very funny you say that out loud. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. Cause it's like, people think it's cool. Like, oh man, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy. It's like, okay, that's not good. You know what I mean? Are you busy with the wrong things? It's like, we idolize this like hustle culture and all that. But I think once you live through it, you realize, no, the dude who's like, delegated all his stuff and now he has time for his family and God and everything. That's the cool dude. You know what I mean? That's like busy with the right things.
He says this all the time. Like, how much time did you actually spend on the task? Like, you might have spent 3 hours, 4 hours.
Right.
But how many hours were you actually spending on it?
Right.
Then if you do that math, you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Are you big on
I'm
deep
so
work?
unproductive.
On deep, yeah, I read it, and after that,
It's mind blowing stuff.
it's mind blowing, and deep work is basically, I forgot who it's by.
Cal Newport.
What's his name?
Cal Newport.
Cal Newport.
Yeah.
And the idea is based on Carl Jung locking himself in some sort of castle to write a book.
Yeah.
And he would go for days, months.
Yep. Abe Lincoln too. When he was president, he would just be like, yo guys, I'm out. I'm going to this place. Leave me alone. Like, this is how I'm going to get stuff done. But you can apply that to all aspects of your life. I think we're just distracted. We're living in the distracted. It's so easy to be distracted. Our ancestors didn't have this. They weren't like, all right, they were like, okay, like there's nothing to do. I'm going to go do something that's productive for my family, for my health. Like, we don't have, like, it's crazy. People you hear stories, people on the internet for 16 hours a day. Like, you just wake up, go on the internet, order food, and then you're just back on the internet, video games and all this stuff. It's insane. It's crazy.
Soon they'll be there like 24 hours.
Yeah, for sure. With AI and stuff. I mean, it's a whole discussion, but I mean, it's crazy. Even like the fact that you guys are just like out here doing stuff. You're alive. There's life there. There's like a life force of things and look at all this stuff. And it's very, very cool to see because, you see a lot of people now that just take the easy route, which is like, I'm just going to chill, get a job that makes me enough for my very basic, expenses. And then I'm just going to hang out. What more is there? And I think just asking these questions, challenging that it's cool to see.
Thank you. I want to go back to the dating conversation.
Yeah.
Because something I think about very randomly is it healthy because it'll come up just this person said that they'd be willing to be Shomer Shabbos.
Right.
If they could date this person.
Right.
Or this person would do this and they're not sure if it's a match.
Right.
So the whole conversation about differences in religious levels.
You have to date someone more religious than you.
Right,
or else you're
right.
going to fall back.
The difference in religious levels going into that relationship and how you feel that should be managed. Do you think it's something that's impossible? What's the right way to do it?
Yeah. I'm definitely not going to pretend to be a shidduch expert. And I know you guys have had some, which is really cool to see. Yeah, I think it does seem like people are a little too, for lack of a better term, picky. It seems like people are not willing to step out of their comfort zone. I think you have to do that. You don't have to, you definitely want to find someone who wants to grow at the same rate as you. I don't think you have to be at the same level, but I think as long as you guys understand where you want to end up together, that's the thing. I think you have to think of the end game a little bit. I think that needs to be discussed early on, right? Because otherwise things could definitely don't have to find someone who's going to grow at the same rate. And like, we're going to do 24 mitzvahs by the 50th, month of us being married. Right. But I think just someone who's growing should find someone else who's very interested in growing. But bringing it back, I think people need to step out of their comfort zone. They need to go to different states. They need to try all different things. I think it's hard because I live in an out of town community. But I see a lot of people that are just like, I need people to come to me. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to do a few things and I hope people will end up at the door. And it's like, you got to go out at your door, right? And you got to go out there and you got to put yourself out there. These are basic ideas, but I'm seeing a lot of people just not willing to step out of their comfort zone, not just in dating, just in all aspects. And I think it's huge to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because when you said it, my first reaction, because it seemed almost like there was a value being given to someone more religious was better than me. So I had to do the work to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, not everyone is going to have that mentality, right? Someone could see that as like, hey, you're more religious than me, but I'm never going to get there. I just happen to know that, look, I know one day, like, this is going to be it for me and I'm going to like crack this code. I just don't know how. Again, thank God I discovered Chassidus Chabad and everything. But I'm like, I knew eventually. So I knew that I've always just had a growth mindset. It was a big, huge, it's one of like my core values, even at like my company, like we got to always grow. So with that, I saw it as a challenge, as an opportunity, right? To level up. I didn't see it as a threat or something that like, whoa, this is going to bring like, friction. I saw it as like, this is cool. I'm willing, this is somewhere where I hope to end up.
How, the way you said, also in my business, it seems like such an afterthought in your life, but it takes up so much time. So how are you living with so much purpose when it seems like a lot of the time you're actually spending in your life is on things that aren't necessarily so purposeful?
Yeah, I think because you could tie, again, general theme here, like tying everything back to Chassidus, you could do, one concept that I really love is that everything you do on a day-to-day basis, you can do if you do it with the right intent, it's a holy thing. Right now, people say, what are you guys doing? Instead, you should go over there and you should read, you should learn. Why aren't you guys learning Gemara and why aren't you sitting down? No, I think this is exactly what we're doing. I think we're taking something like a podcast or just share or social media and sharing, a message, and we're using it as a platform to spread goodness. I don't think there's any better use of our time right now than doing that. So I think, I bring this idea into everything. It's in my day-to-day life, into business and everything. So yeah, I'm working on my business right now, but I want to grow my business so that I could give more to Jewish causes, so that I could provide for my family, so that I could do that. So I think as long as at the front and center, you have, your Jewish identity and you understand that, I think it allows you to do everything else that keeps you busy with the right intention.
What is your business, and when did it enter the picture, like in your life? Yeah,
it's a good question. So when I was 18, I had when I went in the program to Lakewood, I came back the next year. Actually, they're like, "Hey, we're doing this program again, except this time it's going to be a 2-month program over the summer." Oh, wow. So I just finished high school, and or maybe I was a year out after high school, and I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So I went and I had an internship here in the city. I worked for a company, Meridian Capital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my internship. And I gave it my everything. I was like, I want to work here really, really hard. And on the weekends, we would go to Lakewood, sometimes to Muncie. And that was like my second year. I was 19 at the time. So that was like my second year being involved with Judaism. And it was really, really fun. I learned about the world of real estate. I learned what it was like working in an office. And that whole past year, I had started working for like a local, it was my family's, my grandmother's at the time, it was her house cleaning business. And I was driving cleaners around and I was just soaking it all in. I was understanding, how much cleaners are getting paid, how much is the customer getting paid. I was just a driver. She had a lot of cleaners that weren't driving. And I realized I really, really want to get into just entrepreneurship in general. This is something I want to do. So when the next year came, I gave everything in Meridian. I was there for 2 months and they offered me a job. They're like, "Do you want to work here?" And I'm like, 19. This is like an insane company. I could live in New York City. I mean, this is like the ultimate measure of success. It was such a challenging moment for me because in my head, I knew I want to go back and I want to start my own thing. And I told them that, and the rabbis kind of pulled me to the side. They're like, "Dude, like a cleaning company versus working at Meridian Capital? Like, are you serious?" Right. I'm like, I can't, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for myself. I want to learn that world. And my friend who was with me, just someone that I'd met there, they offered him a job too. So two of us were offered jobs. He stayed, still works at Meridian.
How's he doing?
He's crushing it. He's absolutely crushing it. It's very, very cool to see. But I wanted to go and build my own thing. I wanted to do something. And so I took a chance on myself. I went back and I started to learn more about the business. I started my own company and my own cleaning houses. I did that for several years. I ended up selling that company. And then I got into the commercial cleaning space, cleaning offices. Also in Minnesota, this is all happening in Minnesota. And fast forward today, we are still doing cleaning services. But we're sort of like a platform, like an Uber for office cleaning. We have a bunch of partners with different cleaning companies on our platform. We clean offices in basically almost all the states. We're heavily based here in New York City, Miami. And yeah, that's what keeps me busy today.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
If there's one message you could leave for the person listening to this, what would it be?
Around business?
Anything.
Around anything?
Life.
Yeah. I think Yeah. So I would bring it back to the purpose theme, and I would bring it around Judaism. And I would say that as Jews, we're really, really special. I know that sounds so boring, but if you tap into that, that's ultimately what I discovered at an early age when I was telling the story when I was 18. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for where my life is today, realizing how special we are as Jews. And we have a serious, serious mission to fulfill. And that's a life's work. And I promise you, if you do that, it will give your life purpose.
Thank you for coming today, Roman.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's
Yeah.
you
You are the man.
Thank you so much.